So we're back then with another build guide video for Marvel's Avengers. Today we will of course be having a look at Spider-Man. Yes, they only came out yesterday, but I spent a ton of time yesterday playing. I was up till, as we would say in Scotland, the wee hours playing him to figure out a build for him, and I've got something pretty special again. It's really quite similar to the Black Panther build that I had before. It's all about using the mechanic that comes from his ultimate heroic and the associated steroid buff you get with that, and it allows us to get a huge amount of damage reduction, a huge damage increase, and on top of that we're very easily able to hit over 100% crit chance with him as well, and that's not with the best gear at all that we've actually got on him. We're able to maintain all that. So in the video what we'll do, we'll start off with an overview. I'll go into a bit more detail about the build. We'll then check out the stats that you want to aim for. We'll talk about some gear perks and gear you want to aim for and where you actually farm that gear. We'll then check out the abilities. Next up we have the champion points, and then finishing up we have some gameplay. Now let's dive in. Let's start off with the overview first. So this setup then, it's all about the buff that comes with his ultimate ability, which is called Wrecking Ball. The actual ability itself is pretty underwhelming, but the steroid buff portion that it actually procs is really pretty amazing. Now when this is active, and you can get 100% uptime in this, but when it's active you'll get 40% damage reduction, you'll get 35% damage increase, you'll get 20% crit chance, that's a flat amount which is huge. You'll get your 100% uptime in this because when we defeat an enemy we'll get an additional 4.5 seconds added onto it. I've very easily in populated levels been able to get the timer up to over 1 minute on this. Also, when you have Wrecking Ball and associated buffs active, you'll refill your intrinsic meter faster, meaning you can do takedowns on any enemy, generating heroic orbs, so Wrecking Ball is available should it actually drop off. You can just cast it and get the buff back again. Also, when it's active, all melee attacks will apply web status. This is important because with the setup we're using, webbed enemies take an additional 10% damage, and you have a 15% increased chance to actually crit them. Webbed enemies also have a chance to drop heroic orbs, so it'll be raining heroic orbs with this setup. And then from a defensive perspective, when the buff is actually active, you'll get your spider sense ability. You'll get a longer duration on that, which means you get increased damage reduction. The game doesn't tell you how much, but we do get more damage reduction on top of the 40%, and it's also easier to interrupt enemies, which means it's less likely they'll be able to hit you, and you'll be able to get your combo finishers off. And there's a pretty awesome combo finisher I will be showing that I use in this video. And that's just about everything that covers how the build all comes together. As you can see, there's an absolute ton of offense and defense. Now what we'll do is we'll talk about the stats, and during this section I'll actually break down how you get that 100% crit chance, and you can really get it pretty easily with this setup. Now, just before we do actually break down the stats I've got on Spider-Man, because they're not the best at all, I will mention the fact when it comes to doing build guide videos, I'm not trying to do some kind of guide to show off where I farmed a character for 1,000 hours and I have best in slot gear that no one else actually has any hope of actually getting. The whole idea behind these builds is to show off a setup that's nice and easy to actually gear up for, but is still very effective at the same time. So that's why my stats are all over the place before anyone mentions it in the comments below about them. The ideal stats that I'd be looking for on Spider-Man, it would of course be might you would go for as your primary damage. I would go for Valor because we've got over that 100% crit chance, so we really benefit from the crit damage. And then for survivability I would go for Resolve for the reason that it scales better than Resilience. So that's the 3 primary stats you want to actually really focus on. I'll now break down how you get the 100% crit chance with the setup we're actually running. So at the moment you can see I'm sitting at 27.7, which is definitely on the lower side. I only have 50 proficiency. I'm going to pull that down to 25% here to be generous, and we can still go over 100%. So you're sitting at 25%. We're using a slot 4 that will show off in a moment that will boost you up to 45%. You've then got 5% from your champion system, it's taking you up to 50%. You've got your damage buff, that's 35%, so we're up to 85% crit now. From your melee mastery tree, we get an additional 10%, so we're sitting at 95% here. Then also from your web status mastery tree, for when we web up enemies, which will be very often, that's an additional 15%. So enemies that aren't webbed will be sitting at 95%. Enemies that are webbed will be sitting at 110% chance to crit. And once again, as mentioned, this isn't thousands of hours of gear and anything like that you need to farm. It's just all about being smart with the gear pieces you actually farm and being smart with the build you actually use. So that's the stats. Let's now talk about and show off some of these gear perks. So when it comes to the gear here, you can probably see we are using 2 exotic pieces, but don't panic, they're nice and easy to farm. They come from the priority mission. You can also get these from the Vibranium event that's actually going on at the moment as well. I actually saved doing it for Spider-Man. Now, looking at the slot 1 we've got here, so this one, what's really important about it is the top perk, which is heavy combo finishers. We're going to talk about that a bit more in a moment, but with this we've got plasma status effect on it. The third perk down, exceptionally important as well, Wrecking Ball Enhancer, so 20% increased damage reduction in all normal damage while Wrecking Ball is active, and we'll be looking to get the 100% uptime on that. Looking at the slot 2 here, we have a chance hitting an enemy with a ranged crit attack, grants a damage buff, so very often you'll be manually targeting and firing off your webs, but we've actually got a melee heavy combo finisher move. The final hit on it is where he jumps up, spins around and fires webs everywhere. This is classed as a range attack, so this can actually proc your damage buff, which is the reason we're not worried too much that we don't actually have it in slot 1. We've got a cold status effect here. This works really nice alongside the warm status effect we've got on the slot 1. Looking at the next exotic here, Ward of Great Responsibility, once again comes from the priority missions. This one, the top perk, is nice for survivability. It makes the Spider Sense debuff last longer. Main reason we're using it though is Wrecking Ball Rampage. So defeating enemies while Wrecking Ball is active will extend your duration of the ability by 2.5 seconds. We can get an additional 2 seconds in masteries, meaning every time you defeat an enemy you're adding close to an extra 5 seconds on it, which is amazing uptime wise. You've then got Spinneret Destruction, 15% increase in status, crit chance and all normal damage of web shooter attacks. Not 100% sure if this will actually apply to the heavy combo finisher, but I know for certain that applies to your ranged attacks. So if you're manually aiming, you'll be more likely to crit, which means you'll be more likely to then proc the damage buff. So this actually works out really pretty nice as well, even though this is a melee build. Looking at the final one here, a random gear piece, so you can farm this anywhere. We're using it, I was going to say we're using it for the top perk, we're really using it for all 3, which are pretty amazing, but the top one is exceptional. It's Wrecking Ball Vendetta, 20% increased crit attack chance while Wrecking Ball is active. That helps us push towards that 100% we can actually get crit chance wise. Second perk is really nice. When we defeat enemies we can get Heroic Charge Burst to get our heroics back even quicker and get the ultimate back even quicker. That's the important one. And then you've got Rampage Empowerment, defeat 3 enemies in rapid succession to grant an intrinsic burst. Really nice for doing your takedowns. You could actually swap perks 2 and 3 around and you'd be happy with either one of them, but the main perk is the one at the top there. Looking at your artifacts, ideally what you'd probably go for is just 2 triple might, but here for a little bit of survivability I've got some resilience on this and I've got reactive cosmic surge, so it gives me some willpower and some heroic energy. It gives me a chance at that when I actually get hit. And then finishing up the gear, we've got the Ring of Nibelung. This one's fantastic. It allows you, when you get your heroic orbs dropping, they can fill up the bar by around about a third or so you really don't need to do a lot of takedowns or have orbs generating in order to get your ultimate back to ensure you've got the 100% uptime on it. But that is the gear, nice and simple. Let's now talk about the abilities. For the abilities then, I'll show off this one really quickly. This is the one I was talking about earlier on that allows you to proc the ranged damage buff. So it's Web Repeater. You need to press your light attack 5 times and then your heavy attack once. You'll jump in the air, you'll spin round, you'll fire webs. Once again, it's classed as a ranged attack for proccing your damage buff. Also with this as well, I found that it will fully apply the status effect in one rotation of it, which is really amazing. So you can start off your fight against an enemy with this, and then you start to follow up with your melee attacks, which are the opposite status effect, so you can get your battery nice and easy. Of course, this is a melee combo finisher, which can be hard to actually do, but that's where Spider Sense comes in important with Spider-Man. So when you actually dodge and then you attack an enemy, you're more likely to actually stagger them, which means they'll be less likely to hit you and actually knock you out of your combo. So that's something to bear in mind. So try and do a dodge when you've got your Spider Sense before starting this rotation. For this speciality section, I'll just very quickly talk about the important perks here. I won't cover all of them. Now, this one here is actually really amazing on your support heroic, and it makes it a lot more useful. So, special delivery. The spider drone emits an energy dampening field, giving all enemies defeated near it a chance to drop a heroic orb. It also includes enemies defeated by the drone as well, which is pretty amazing. It doesn't tell you what the rate on it is, but it seems to be really pretty high. I would say easily 50% plus. So this is fantastic for getting your heroics available. Now, another nice way of generating your heroics is, yes, you can use your assault heroic for the damage and the webbing, but you can actually use it to fill up your intrinsic meter. I mean, you can instantly do a takedown, so I like to do that if I'm getting close to the point where I need to cast my ultimate again and I don't quite have enough heroic energy. I'll quickly cast this, I'll do a takedown, I'll get a heroic orb, and then my ultimate will be available again. The ultimate, of course, we've talked about the buff you're getting on it there. You can see the damage reduction and the increased damage. Perk wise on it, the ones that I'm using here, we've got Web Brawler, really important. That allows you to apply your web status when you're doing your regular melee attacks. It looks pretty awesome as well, to be honest, having webbed boxing gloves and feet. And then we've got this one here, which is awesome as well. So defeating enemies during Wrecking Ball extends the duration by 2 seconds, and we've seen earlier on we had the 2.5 seconds in gear, so that takes up to 4.5 seconds per enemy defeat. For the masteries here, once again, we'll just focus on the important perks. This one here gives you an additional 10% crit chance for melee attacks. We've then got Brute Force, increase the crit damage of all melee damage, great because we have 100% uptime on it. We've then got New York's Finest, performing a takedown generates a heroic orb, jumping all the way over to Web status. Web enemies take 10% more damage, so again, this is why on the ultimate we're selecting the option to do web status on our melee attacks, so we're more likely to actually web enemies up to get the additional melee damage. And then on top of that, you get this additional 15% crit chance against web enemies, which is pretty amazing. And then web enemies that are defeated have a 20% chance to drop heroic orbs. So with this setup, you can see you're getting all the survivability, you're getting all the damage, and you're having heroic orbs raining all over the screen as well. So that's all the abilities. Let's now talk about the champion system and where you want to prioritise your points. So when it comes to the champion system, you will of course in time want to actually max this out if you are maining Spider-Man, but in the short term these are the ones that I would actually focus on. So your ones that are all the way down to the bottom, they are your priority. That's your flat crit chance, so you can get your 100% crit chance, and your heroic charge rate. Heroic charge rate is really important and it works very well with the ring. You've then got crit damage next. This works really nice due to the high crit rate that he's got. And then other ones that I would pick up, they're not as important but they can be useful, are your perk chance and your defense boost as well. So that's the champion system, really pretty simple, and with that I think that's everything actually covered there. Now we're going to get some gameplay in a moment, but before we have that, if the video has been helpful, please do take the time to hit the like, share and subscribe button, leave a comment below. That is exceptionally important. YouTube actually recommends videos based on the interactions from viewers and whether or not they comment, so if this video was in any way helpful, type anything you want below. I don't even mind if it's an insult either, just type a comment below. But yeah, let's finish up with some gameplay now. So once again, thanks for tuning in, stay safe, I'll see you all again soon.